Hi, this is the Code of Ethics Group Project for Instructional Technology with Dr. Longing. My name is Derek, and I'll be narrating this presentation. Uh, the group consists of Candace, Samantha, myself, and James, and this lists all of the equal shares that we did in the project. We'll go ahead and get started. This is just an overview of what's going to be in the presentation. It's going to be about the Code of Ethics for Arkansas educators. Basically, it's going to break down the standards and the expectations of teachers, anybody that's licensed or employed under a legal waiver. And so we'll go ahead and get started. Go ahead and get started with a quote from the late great Nelson Mandela. It says, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world," and that is a very true and powerful statement because education is key. Regardless of what you do, everything, whether you're a doctor, lawyer, anything, all of that starts with the basis of education. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started with standard number one, which is an educator maintains a professional relationship with each student, both in and outside of the classroom. Um, with the relationships with educators and students, the first thing that we have here is in reference to effective classroom management, which is a very, very powerful and needed thing when running a classroom. Classroom management, effective classroom management is very key because if you don't have any classroom management, basically your students will run the show and you'll never get anything done and you'll constantly be sending students out. Uh, the thing that I was taught as a teacher is put your foot down day one, set the expectations, and sometimes you have to go back in a few weeks and reiterate those same expectations for the classroom when it comes to classroom management. With proper classroom management, you can definitely run a classroom and it runs way more smoothly. The kids have more respect for you. Their work is usually better in quality, and it's more so. It feels like a family environment. It feels like a safe place for you and the students because you all have that basis of respect because of that classroom management and the techniques that you use. Um, Here's a continuation of standard one. Says basically when teachers build and maintain relationships with students, it is with the utmost importance that lines do not become crossed between professional and personal. And here's just a few sub points. This is going to be based on integrity and honesty. You definitely have to have integrity as a teacher. You want to treat everyone fairly. Treat all students fairly. Please avoid favoritisms. Students can pick up on favoritism, and they will usually rebel if they feel like you're showing favoritism to someone else. Always err on the side of caution, whatever you do. Whether it be just talking to students, any actions that you may have, you always have to err on the side of caution. Uh, Also, you want to represent your school district in everything you do, and that's usually in a positive light. You don't want to paint a negative picture because you are a public figure. People do know where you work, and basically every action that you do is being watched. And you also want to be a role model because as an educator, you don't think about it, but you are a role model for students. You may not, see it immediately, but you'll, in a few years or at the end of the school year, have students come back and tell you, "Oh, I looked up to you because you behave a certain way." So just know your students are always watching. With standard two is an educator maintains competence regarding his or her professional practices, inclusive of professional and ethic behavior, skills, knowledge, dispositions, and responsibilities relating to his or her organizational position. So basically, in our role as educators, we have a lot of things, a lot of traits that goes into this, a lot of different skills, and some of these traits are being dependable, being flexible, being fair, being reliable, self-confident, caring, and have a respect for diversity. And that one is very key because I know usually when we speak about diversity, it's usually seen as just race, but diversity goes off of our students on Do they have disabilities? Do they have IEPs? Do they have, are they, their sexual orientation? I mean, there's so many things that goes under the umbrella of diversity. So that one is a very key trait to have, and you have to respect everybody's point of view with diversity. You want to, demonstration of within this and having a positive attitude. A positive attitude will carry you a long way throughout the day. You want to have an excitement for learning. With having an excitement for learning is you want to exude that for your students, for them to be excited to come to your class. You want to have self-control as an educator. You want to be open-minded and know that even though you may have been raised a certain way, there's things that you still want to be open-minded because this is a different point in time than when we were students. You want to be a great motivator. Me being a coach, I have to be a great motivator because trust me, kids don't want to come in and practice every day. They don't want to do the little things to help them become better. And you have to, think that, and you have to have the belief that all students can learn. Uh, with Standard 3, an educator fulfills reporting obligations associated with professional practices. Um, as educators, we are obligated and we are held to a higher standard when it comes to reporting things. That includes falsifying grades, falsifying information to receive grant money, uh, falsifying reimbursements for travel and other school related functions, failure of a mandate of reporting a child maltreatment to DHS hotline, um, falsifying information for a student to receive a scholarship. And as a sports coach, you tend to see that more happen with sports, but it does happen with academic scholarships as well. Knowingly planning an eligible student in a sporting event. Trust me, that can have a whole trickle down effect where people could lose their jobs. I've seen this happen. When it and we've listed here in this project, or in this I'm sorry in this presentation, the ethics number, uh, which will go to the Arkansas Department of Education. Standard 4, an educator is entrusted with public funds and property, and honors that trust with honesty, honest, responsible stewardship. And that basically includes, you're gonna usually be given a school laptop to where you can put in grades. You check your emails throughout the day, call roll. Basically, that's your one-stop shop to be able to manage throughout the day. And you don't want to be on there looking, shopping and looking at inappropriate things. You don't want to steal money from the school funds. You don't want to drive school vehicles for unauthorized reasons, such as taking the school bus to a trip to Walmart. You definitely don't want to do that. Um, as educators, we will be held to a higher standard. Uh, Standard 5, an educator maintains integrity regarding the acceptance of any gratuity, gift, compensation, or favor that might impair or appear to influence professional decisions. So basically, this is, teachers receive gifts all the time from parents, from students, from colleagues, from peers. I mean, you're going to receive gifts. I say acceptable gifts are always school supplies, gift cards that are ranging from $5 to $25. Foods and desserts, class decorations. Those are usually pretty good. Yeah, you don't want to get into more expensive gifts. Now sometimes there's parents that just they appreciate you so much, so they're going to go a little bit over and beyond. Just be appreciative of it, and just thank them for it. Unacceptable gifts are anything that comes with conditions, changing grades, additional playing time, you know, dates. That those types of things are unacceptable because that crosses the line of professionalism, and you definitely have to have that integrity. And then there's different occasions where teachers do receive gifts. Of course, on their birthday, we have a teacher appreciation week in May. Yeah, in May, you have the holiday season, Christmas. Kids get you Christmas gifts all the time. And then at the beginning of the school year, people donate to your class and things of that sort. So just know that there will potentially be gifts given, but don't go in expecting it to happen. So then we go to, when it comes to standardized testing, teachers are held to a higher mandate, and we have to follow a strict set of guidelines because it can risk our jobs. It's so serious that, you know, teachers have meetings. We have a whole staff meeting about when standardized testing is coming and what their jobs are and how everything needs to be done. So some of the guidelines are, of course, no talking, no backpacks in the classroom. All students must face one way. Teachers and students are not allowed to have smartphones or electronic communication devices such as smartwatches, Apple Watches. You're not allowed to begin a test until the test proctor gives the instruction, and students have to be escorted to the restroom by a teacher who's monitoring the hallways. Now, that does not mean that the teachers goes into the restroom with the kids, but they have to literally walk them to the door and let them use the restroom and walk them back to the classroom. Standard 7 is, and that's a lot to read, so I'll just break it down. It boils down to the state regulations and the federal law that comes down to confidentiality. Uh, what you'll learn in the classroom is, as a teacher, that you'll learn that certain students have medical conditions. They're going to be on. They have different learning disabilities and things of that sort, and you cannot make that public knowledge. And if you do, uh, that is a fireable offense, and you can be sued for that. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, school districts will not tolerate any of that discussion. Violating that confidentiality. So you have to be very mindful of what you say uh, to your colleagues, to even around other students. You have to be very careful about what you say. With Standard 8, this is more so about an educator's um, job and how they're supposed to act at school sponsored activities, and that involves students, and you don't want to use or be under the influence of alcohol or unauthorized drugs and possessing those items. You don't want to possess tobacco or tobacco related products such as vapes, e-cigarettes, and you don't want to abuse any prescription medication or anything of that sort. So you definitely just want to be sober, especially when it's a school function, and that goes for students as well. You have to hold them to that standard as well. Uh, and this is just continuing. Some of the places that you cannot have them. You can't go take them to sports games. You can't go to plays, tournaments, field trips, conventions, basically anything that is school related. So here we have our assessment for Kahoot over our 8 standards. Uh, sorry, about that. There we go. So here's our Kahoot questions here, and basically we have 8 questions here, and all of them are over every individual standard. So it starts here with standard 1 and just basically goes down to standard 8, and it's just it's going to some of the questions are true or false, and then some of them have multiple choice answers, and you just go through there and you can play with that. Continuing with the presentation. There we go. And so here we have a video of just an example of teacher ethics in a video.
As third-year teacher at Littletown Middle School, Terry Sanders brings an infectious energy to her classroom. Both faculty and students like Terry and find it easy to get caught up in her enthusiasm. And like many young professionals her age, Terry is active in social media.
A lot of us here are new teachers. I think Terry's in her 3rd year or so. And most of us are still in our 20s, so we all follow each other on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And it was never a problem until about a week ago.
Change up.
Salad.
Yeah.
Her tweet said, "Just saw a cop in the school parking lot with the dog. Hope they don't go near my car. Hashtag just saying hi."
Scott became more concerned about Terry when one of her posts over the weekend seemed to cross the line.
It was Monday morning, and I had some time before my first class started. And so I'm looking up what people did over the weekend, and I find this photo of Terry. on Instagram. It looked like she was at some kind of party. She has teachers and students who follow her. I have no idea who's seen this by now or what, if anything, I should do about it.
All right, so this is our response to that video as a group. In the first incident, what I would do in that situation is I would pull her to the side and advise her to be careful what she posts on social media, especially as an educator. Even if it's meant as a joke, it doesn't look good that a teacher is joking about having drugs in their car or making references to using drugs using the hashtag #HighRemark. In the second incident, I tell Terry she needs to remove that video immediately before it gets back to the administration or any students or parents may see it. I would also advise her that if she doesn't remove it, I have to report it because that's violating the code of ethics, and I am a mandated reporter. Especially with her having posting a picture with what looks like a rolled marijuana cigarette as well, and having a bottle of alcohol. So those would be the ways that I would respond to that in that situation with that video. And here are our questions about how we would use social media. The first question is, how will the code of ethics dictate how you use social media with your students? And this goes back to standard one, and it's maintaining a professional relationship on and in and out of the classroom. And then it goes, as a social media user for educational purposes, how can you be sure you are abiding by the code of ethics? And a great way is to always, commonly reference it, go back and reread it, see if anything has been updated, just to make sure that you're not violating the code of ethics. The next question is, how will the code of ethics dictate how you use social media personally? And you have to always remain professional, even when you're at home, even when you're in social settings, even when you go out to public places. At the end of the day, all people know you as is you're an educator and you are a public figure. So you definitely have to be mindful of everything you post, say, anything, because we're in a climate where social media can get you fired or it can avoid you from getting a new job. And then how will this impact your own personal social media use? As it says here, you have to be, post and modest. One thing that I do, and this is because I'm a coach and it was approved by my district, I do have a team page or a coaches page for Instagram, and what I do is I post things that me and the students do and how we interact with one another, whether we win games, all these different things. And their parents follow, and then of course a lot of my other students that are in my class, they follow the page as well. And I always keep it to where principals and administrators know what's going on. I'm very open with it, but it's more so to keep up with the students, because students leave you all the time and you want to keep track of them, see how they're doing, and if you need to reach out to them and just check up on them sometimes. So that is something that I do on social media. Not all teachers do it, but I do it because I have a different relationship with the majority of the kids I have, but also with me being a coach. And this is just some statistic for violating any of the code of conducts. There are 33,228 teachers in the state of Arkansas, and in 2017 and 18 school year, only less than 1% were found to be in violation of code of ethics. So only 115 of those cases for 115 cases for 33,000 over 33,000 student or teachers. I'm sorry, happened in that amount of time, which is a very low number. And this is just showing our sources that we use throughout the presentation, and that is all for our presentation.